Yo, the kids official sliding on the instrumental. Nordic combos, twist your mental like forbidden.
Peace to the public and power to the people. Yo, look, if you're hearing this right now, breathe easy. You know what I mean? Big gratitude, big appreciation. Happy you're here. Happy you're here for this. Space where the vulnerable are powerful. And what the most gangster thing you could do is serve. This is All the Way Live.
All the Way Live podcast. I keep saying this, not a podcast, it's a show. And that's what it is, it's a show. And the reason, and the thing that separates it from being a podcast and a show is that my brother and I dedicate ourselves every week to be able to give y'all that carefully curated content for your cranium. Episode 96, which means we're deeply, deeply in this thing, man. And we appreciate everybody for rocking with us, showing us support, taking these conversations offline with us. It means a lot. What up, Momzo? You know, my number one fan. And we do this show for many reasons, Miles. We do this show for many reasons. We love giving people information.
True.
We love serving the people.
Mm-hmm.
But most importantly, we know that people are going through it. We know that depression is at an all-time high. We know that loneliness is at an all-time high. We know that suicide's at an all-time high. Addiction's at an all-time high. Unemployment is rife. People are going through it. So we try and be a place of positive energy where people can come through, get some of this positive energy, and keep going about their day through carefully curated content where art meets impact, where information meets swag. Whew.
Yes, sir. And all of that good energy, that positivity, that carefully curated content is sourced from the UK, which is definitely in the building.
Shout out to San.
You know what I'm saying? South Africa, which is definitely in the building.
Shout out to Africa Squad.
And Chicago. What's going on in Chicago, man?
Love.
Yup.
Love.
True.
And also Chicago is in the building.
And Chicago is in the building. And this podcast is recorded on stolen land. This land was cared for by the Potawatomi people, the Council of the Three Fires, First Nations people, and the violence done to remove them from this land is inseparable from the violence that we see in the city today, this country today, and this world today. So we lift up love for First Nations people the world over, our brothers and sisters. Shout out to Chicago Nations Youth Council. Like, this is a major movement that requires a collective conscience, that requires love and locking arms. So lock in with those around you, lock in with your communities. That love that we lift up between Black and brown communities the world over is how you know that our intro is over. Let's get into the show.
Yeah, I get that, but is we live though? Is we like all the way live though? You heard?
Hey, these transitions are smooth, and this experience is smooth is because we have a producer in the background who's keeping us nice and crispy. Shout out, we are a three-man team that puts the show together. Each of us are community activists, we're organizers, we serve the people in professional capacity. We do that as a thing we dedicate our lives to, which is why this show, we highlight the people that are doing the good work. And every week we find folks and we go, yo, these guys are doing that work. Let's give them a shout out. And this week ain't no different.
It's not. And shout out to our producer, Hassan, for consistently helping us carefully curate this content. This week we shouting out Afro-Rack, which is right in line with some of the community partners that we work with in bringing services to youth, bringing opportunities to youth, bringing technology to youth. Laptop drive still going on. If you know anybody with a laptop, hit us up. We're going to get that to some youth. But Afro-Rack is doing that in a major way with a focus on STEM activities and technology and bringing music and access to musical equipment and technology to young people is fire.
It's dope. These dudes out here giving kids musical tools or synthesizers and that type of thing. I think it's really cool. And the founder, Aaron Goose, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Aaron Goose, they do have plans of expanding this past into London. We're also seeing it there. It's here in the US. So thousands of kids have been helped so far. Thousands of hours have been spent working with these kids. Another one of those cool things.
Yeah, over 1,600 kids, man. Like, we got to give it up, snap it up, clap it up for that. That's crazy. And this really hits me. This really resonates with me because there are so many aspects of our culture where that barrier to access kind of eliminates some opportunities. So like specifically with music production, right? Access to being an engineer, access to some of the other careers that surround some of the vocal artists that we kind of tend to lift up, right? Like the fact that even take it to hip hop, which is something that we always talk about, production in hip hop. How many kids are paying for studio time, right? How many kids are saving up their little money to pay an engineer, right? Because they don't have access to the fancy synthesizer or all the plugins that it takes to produce the music on the back end, right? So the fact that this organization has come together to put that type of technology in the kids' hands to let them be creative and express themselves, in some of the ways that might not have been, within their reach before is super fire. So I hope these kids become producers and engineers and folks that, work in some of the careers that we don't often lift up and get paid off that.
Yeah, because we are creative people. Everyone's creative. And we've seen what it looks like when you give young kids from impoverished backgrounds some help. Like, look at what Kanye did with his mom. His mother put him in, heard he wanted to do music, got him around some producers, got him some support, got him some resources. And here we are with the illustrious work musically of this artist. And so it's cool. What's real cool about these brothers is that they're doing this it's a Chicago initiative, and it's done between Chicago and London, like we said, which are two places where we also help people. So the Afro-Rack gents, if you guys catch this and you listen to this, do let us know. And there's a few things that people can do to help in this initiative. Do you know what folks can do to be a part of this?
But I think this is an informative show. Are you about to let us know?
Definitely, I'm going to let them know. You can donate or you can become a sponsor on their webpage, and we'll definitely put that onto our description for this show. Support some kids. If you got some musical tools, reach out. We'll get it to them, man.
No doubt. And let's definitely lock in Afro-Rack. If y'all in and around the community, then we are community. And I'm not just saying that because I might want to take some classes, even though I think it would be fire to be able to sit in and to learn something. I'm always all about the education. But when I was checking through their website, it was showing that they specifically choose modular synthesizers because there's a extra, element of science and technology and freedom and creativity in the way that those are composed rather than some of the more cookie cutter options out there. So I'm hyped. I'm trying to get involved, activated, and educated. You know what I'm saying? Hope y'all do too. Afro-Rack, fire.
Check it out. Yo, producer, take us to that next section, man. Let's get it.
Every week we think about what's the most relevant thing we can bring to y'all. And a lot of times, there's a lot going on, a lot of headlines to turn to that we try to make sense of. But this week we decided to look internally, right? And shout out to our producer, Hassan. We're jumping into the male care segment right now. You know what I'm saying? We got to start off light, keep it crispy. There we go.
I like that.
Keep it crispy. Shout out to our producer. And so we wanted to move into a space, look internally, look inside to what's going on within our household. You know what I mean? And what's going on in our household is a little bit of leveling up. And I think that might mirror, see what I did there? Mirror, bathroom, self-care, where we going with it. Some stuff that's going on outside in the world. So my man Zway here,
oh no,
has been helping me to level up.
A shout out
in my life. You know what I'm saying?
Sexy gang.
I'm not sure if that's what I'm willing to call it. But
Miles is a part of Sexy Gang now.
All right. Well, hey, I'm the pupil in this. So why don't you take us away? Tell us about your journey, how you've come to become a guru of the of beautification.
I'm a beautification guru.
So that's title pending. On a few things.
Nah, not at all, man. Not at all. I think what's interesting is that a lot of men, especially where we see ourselves now and our peers, are stepping into a different level of self-care and self-grooming. So you're seeing guys getting put onto things that they never possibly did before, because for some reason, and I don't know what that reason is, we're almost taught as men not to care about our grooming processes. So the bare minimum, some Axe spray, Axe, soap, and sometimes lotion, and that's all we think men need, but there's so much more to it. So it's somebody here who, how do I word this?
Y'all heard how accusatory that you was?
That's why I'm trying to take that accusatory element away. But
shower shaming me?
I'm not shower shaming you. However, there are people that do feel a bit of shame or a bit of embarrassment in going into that in like allowing themselves the full world of grooming. So what is it about grooming that makes men feel so uncomfortable?
I think there's a basic expectation that men don't, one, take as much time in the bathroom as women, right? So like just from that premise, just the idea that whatever our bodily functions requires less time, less care, less attention. I think that's a part of a patriarchal foundation that we've laid, right? So, and I think in our own heads, we minimize that time of self-care because that's the expectation, right? It doesn't take us as long, and in not taking us that long, that means we sacrifice what? We both, as men, use public restrooms.
Hold on. Are you telling me that bathroom etiquette is what's making men feel ashamed of grooming?
I'm trying to, and I don't think I've hit the bedrock of this idea yet, but I'm starting with like just a basic fundamental premise, right?
Okay.
And I think that fundamental premise plays out. We've had bathrooms for a very long time. And I think the expectation, and there have been lines for women's bathrooms that have been longer for a very long time, right? So I think there's been an expectation that's developed that like, yes, men are in and out, right? And I think, and if you have a deeper, Homo sapien like foundation, then let me know. But I'm using that as like, so boom, we're expected to be in and out and have to sacrifice a lot of things. Where I was going with it, we as men both use public restrooms.
Everyone uses public restrooms.
Nah, some people refuse to use public restrooms.
I'm not mad at that.
I'm not mad at it either.
I'm not mad at that.
Check where I'm going.
Yeah.
I know you've experienced using the public restroom, hitting the sink to wash your hands, and some dude from the urinal flies by you in the mirror out the door, right? No hand wash. Yeah?
Where are we going with this?
I'm saying that I think the baseline of what men think they have to do sanitarily and what's the other, hygienically is very low.
That's very fair. But you see, the interesting thing is also marketing is a play to it. So even when you look at the different options for male care products, usually if it's not blue or specified as like extreme face cream, so it's always playing off of extremism, and then there's not enough options. That's a part of it too. But I just think, for instance, men don't know that they need to lotion their backs. A study in the UK said that on average, men in the UK between the ages of 20 and 40 only wash their bed sheets twice a year.
Do you think that both in something like laundry and in something like face cream, that there's an aversion on men's part to like engage in that because it's typically thought of as feminine?
100%.
Where do you think that comes from?
What is that fear of feminism?
I think we as men, there's a homophobia in general that makes us afraid of those feminine things. But I guess what I'm asking you is, why do we consider those things feminine?
And now we're having a real conversation, because there is homophobia attached to it. There's no way you can separate those things. A lot of the times, I think men are just innate. A lot of times we just homophobic, dog, and we just. I think men can sometimes just be homophobic and homophobic themselves out of the privileges of self-care, like a manicure, a pedicure, face wash, do that micro needling if you need to. Get your eyebrows shaped up.
Micro needling. Slow down, baby. All right, let's go back. So you listed off some very specific things, products, acts before, right? We ain't got to go back to that time.
Okay.
But let's talk about the time after that time. What was the first change? What was the first thing that you were like, let me put down the axe, let me pick this up? Was it just regular soap, toothpaste? Was it dental? What was it?
Women.
Okay, but what was the women? And you met a woman, I'm assuming, and she was like, "Yo, step your game up." In what area?
You see, this is where I'm fortunate in life.
Mm-hmm.
I have a sister.
Okay,
I have a sister, right?
Cool.
And I have a sister who's passionate about grooming.
Okay.
So her passion for the longest time was teaching other women how to be able to take care of their skin from a confidence perspective because of what she dealt with on her skin. So I was a guinea pig a lot of the times for my sister's new experiments on, if there's a new product, it's like, all right, I'm gonna let you put this on your face, we're gonna see what happens, and if it works for everybody, and if it don't,
my bad,
casualty, casualty limitation.
Mm-hmm. And collateral damage, as they say.
Collateral damage.
So what was the first thing that stuck?
It was my back for sure. I did not lotion my back for the longest time, and so I have dark spots on my back now that I'm trying to get rid of.
Okay.
And then from that point, I just went down a long road of realizing all the places I'm ashy. Mm-hmm. My elbows, my knees, my ankles.
Okay.
Now I moisturize from top to bottom.
Okay. Cool. Then what? Lotion, back lotion.
It's a journey, man. I think really what it is that the more you pour into yourself, the more you discover the different things that can increase how you feel about yourself. And there's no limitation to what that can be. Some people go cosmetic with it, literally altering how they look to make themselves feel better. Some people go supplemental. There's different things that you can do. But I think the most important thing is to realize that like there's so much more we can do to take care of ourselves as men.
At any point in that journey, did you start to brush up against like, oh, this feels a little girly?
Definitely once when a lot of the times this is what I hold the reservation for. I have the right to react any way I react to what's being presented to me because I know I'm going to try it.
It took me a second, but I feel okay.
So when tinted sunscreen was brought to me,
yeah,
I was like, I'm not putting makeup on my face, but it's not makeup.
Okay,
it just gives you a different glow.
All right,
a different glow.
It's a spectrum. This whole thing, makeup is a spectrum.
And this is the real conversation. Men spray paint their hairlines. Beijing. Men spray paint their hairlines and dye their hair. So that is a form of makeup too. How come that is something that we can do at the Beijing rate is too high. Too many men are spray painting their hair. It's too high.
Too high.
It's way too high.
Public service announcement. Stop Beijinging it. But I think with men, so now it's another interesting aspect of this conversation. I think with men, we allow that, whatever you want to call it, vanity, that attention to detail and grooming with the hair, especially Black men.
Yeah,
we have that is the area in which, hey, whatever you want to do, if it's fly, it rocks, right?
We're sensitive about our hair.
You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't always translate, like you said, to exfoliation, to skin creams. You know what I'm saying? Microneedling. I don't know what that is, cuz. I don't know what that is, but you said it. It sounded fire. It sounded tingly. Sounded like something I want to experience. Bath bombs. We as men stay away from that type of stuff. It's interesting where we draw those lines. When we have, in the 80s, we was willing to hit the Jerry curl. You know what I mean? It's very interesting where we delineate those lines. But like you said, there are a lot of levels to self-care. You know, you might identify some things that you want to improve about yourself, get your glow right, remove some acne. My brother's been helping me out in a variety of ways. I'm about to show you that we live what we rap out. You know
look at the picture of producer. Thank you. And if you're watching, we're looking at a picture of an example of a Beijing. This man looks and appears to have spray painted his whole head. Can we please make that image a bit larger, please?
This is, yeah.
Perfect. As you can see, this has to be a joke.
The fact that we're not sure, I think, speaks to the state of the culture. And I think it
looks like he's wearing a ski mask.
While we encourage self-care and we encourage, take pride in your appearance or whatever, have some good friends around you to let you know when that goes too far. I think that's the
How
the
about
moral of
this?
message right here.
Men get shamed for getting hair plugs. Men get shamed for. I don't even want to. I don't want to talk about the options that are available for women in their hair. But if a dude's hairline is receding, clearly it's something that we find to be sensitive. We shame men that get hair plugs.
I think going back to those like fundamental ideas, I think as men, the idea is that over time you should construct your value so much so outside of something that's your appearance, whether it's wealth, whether it's property, whether it's a skill that you cultivate, that you should be able to let that physical appearance go to a certain extent and retain your value. Whereas I think we're less willing to let women retain their value outside of retaining their appearance.
And it works to a detriment to them at sometimes, a lot of the times, because then they're only judged by their appearance. Whereas a man can have a lot more room to be judged, not just by their appearance, you know?
And it's super unfair to women, and it doubly hits men because we let ourselves go and then shame ourselves for the ways in which we try and keep up, or how far we take the Beijing. You know what I'm saying? So it's complicated, but it's important, like I said, to have good friends. Check out your network, check out your female friends, let them tell you, how to step up your grooming game. I picked up some tips from my brother, what I'm saying?
Indeed.
We're gonna give you some quick ones, some quick hits.
Yeah.
What am I taking here and why?
That's I feel like you've been waiting to ask me what all these pills are, and this is the time.
We share our growth with the audience. The vulnerable are powerful. I'm Matt Vulnerable with my trusted brother here. What we got?
That's collagen.
Collagen.
That's
What's
collagen.
do for me?
Collagen, that's for your skin, that's for your hair, that's for your nails. So a lot of all those things are things that acquire a lot of dead follicles, right? So your nails are made up of dead cells, and the same thing with your hair. So you want to be able to take care of that and give it the best nourishing vitamins that can add to their growth, their fertility, their their vitality. Not fertility, vitality.
Vitality. Cool.
That's the word.
Well, I appreciate you, man. My skin, my nails, my hair. It's been a couple of weeks. Maybe it's
Already glowing, bro.
You know what I'm
You're
saying?
really glowing. No shit.
So that's why we got to give it to the people. You know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't bring it on here if it wasn't working. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're looking good.
What's this one?
Oh, that's just your multivitamin. Multivitamins. We're just covering everything. I actually read something recently.
What's that?
They said that multivitamins might not actually change the quality of life. I don't know. I thought about it.
No, I'll just play.
but I'll have to look further into that. I find it difficult to believe that, but I'll see. I'll look deeper into that.
Well, I appreciate you for covering all the bases. I like that's a good way to put it.
Yes.
Part of my journey a while back was discovering that vitamin D was really important to me. So I had to jump that, keep that in the medicine cabinet as well. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So figure out what your supplements are that you need. Make sure that you stay, cover all your bases.
There you go.
This little guy.
That's biotin.
Biotin.
Same thing. We're working out the hair, the nails, and hair, nails, face. Hair, nails, face, skin and bones.
You see it.
Biotin.
Look at this face. Take a look. Take a good look, people.
You're glowing, bro.
It's gonna change.
But it's also important to be able to note that we drink green juices first thing in the morning. We have a very healthy lifestyle, and I think that adds to one's life. I think looks like we might be running a bit on time, but I just encourage everyone to be healthy. The number one killer of people, especially people of color, are heart issues, are dietary issues, diabetes. These are the things that are killing us. So take care of yourself, man. Take care of yourself. Go level up.
I'm glad you said it like that, man. We can't take you with us, you know what I'm saying, to the hooping sessions or to the gym, you know what I'm saying? We don't want you to have to hear the blender every morning, you know what I'm saying? But we can hook you up, show you a little bit of this, invite you into our space. So we hope you heard something that you can take with you and, allow yourself, treat yourself. You know what I'm saying? And know that you can still be exactly who you are. Your routine does not define you, but it can definitely help you glow up.
There you go. Glow up. Glow up. Let's get it. Look, this week was a bit tough. Started off with the news of the death of Takeoff, which a rapper from Atlanta from the group Migos. Very, very sad. Very, 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 very sad. Between that same time, we heard about 158 people that were killed in a crowd, what they call it, crowd surging,
Crowd crush.
a
Yeah.
crowd crush in South Korea, and then 150 people were killed on a bridge in India. What makes all of these things happen? What makes all these things very difficult is that we're seeing videos of all of them happen. Literally everything that I've just pointed out now, there's been a video that we've watched of how it happened, and that's extremely traumatizing. So, in part of getting to the current news, we wanted to just go over the facts of what's been happening, and kind of speak about what a crowd crush actually is. Leave people some information. This was a very difficult week.
It really has been. And shout out Hassan, man. Overcapacity tragedies. We were searching for a title, I think, for this segment, and
Killed it.
I'm over capacity in terms of just taking this stuff in emotionally. A lot of these tragedies were the result of people gathering in mass and certain venues and spaces being over capacity. So just think that really captures it. And I think it hurts because a lot of these spaces were supposed to be very happy spaces, right? We're in this space where it feels like we're almost back outside, right?
Oh, we're all the way outside.
We're pretty outside, right? After 2 years of definitely having to question whether it was cool to be outside with the pandemic and quarantine, we're moving into a space where, if it's not accurate to say that we should be less worried about COVID, we're moving into a space where the ways in which we're dealing with it and the ways that we allow it to restrict our movements and where we'll gather is changing, right? And in a lot of ways, it would be fly to really be able to celebrate that. I think a lot of people want to celebrate that. This summer, I got to go to the Silver Room Block Party here in Chicago. That was fire, right? Thousands of people out on the lakefront. That was dope. You know what I mean? You been to any shows or anything fly like that recently in the last few months?
I have, and I've been to a few shows with you recently, and I'm not gonna lie, it induces anxiety to be outside. It really, really does. And I want to be able to acknowledge that part, because that's the effect of seeing all of these things that are happening. That's the effect of COVID. When you look at the video of what happened in India, the reason why that bridge broke is the community is pointing towards the Indian government of that region, saying that there's over 500 bridges in the country that are not maintained very well, that are dilapidated, and that's the reason for it falling, undoubtedly. But there are also videos that have shown over a period of time, young men in particular busy kicking the ridges of that bridge. Before the bridge even fell, there's videos of some boys who were literally rocking it violently, which undoubtedly led towards that. But when I see that, what I'm seeing is frustrated youth. When I'm seeing that, I'm seeing kids that are struggling to find outlets or to deal with what's happening, right? So it's a very weird time to be outside. When I am outside, I'm especially in this country, I'm always thinking about what's happening around me. Am I in a safe space? The last concert we went to, it was a LGBTQ plus positive concert. What's the artist name that we saw? Nokia. Princess Nokia. Went to a Princess Nokia show, and that was a very LGBTQ plus friendly environment.
Great vibe.
A great vibe, incredibly great vibe. But I thought of the killing that happened in Florida when they went into a gay club and shot and killed almost 60 people in there. So I'm thinking now, am I in a space that attracts that? And that's an uncomfortable thing to deal with. Do you deal with anything like that?
I definitely deal with anxiety when especially I'm in a venue, especially if I've never been there before, large crowds, right? And different crowds give off different vibes, right? Even within the same space. So I had a really dope opportunity to go see my first Chicago Fire. That's the soccer team for Chicago in Soldier Field. And I've been to that same space and seen the Bears play. And the crowd when the Bears was there versus the crowd when the Fire was there was very different. It was very chill when the Fire game, right? Still a whole lot of people, but just a different vibe. And so there are definitely times when, depending on, I'm getting old, man. Like a rowdy crowd isn't we here, my people. I mean, it is, right? I'm happy. I'm happy for the young people that's going crazy, getting to be outside. But I'm more comfortable around the edges of the crowd now. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not rushing in even for my favorite artists anymore. So I'm definitely developing a sense of, I don't know, it's a mix of anxiety, and I think it's a mix of anxiety and just awareness. Like you said, we've seen a lot of this stuff. We've seen footage of a lot of these things. And I think hopefully part of it is a healthy response and being older and being more responsible and going, we got to look out for each other in these spaces, man. Like these places where we come together to celebrate an artist, to celebrate a football team, or to, come see something beautiful, like all together where lots of us are drawn. It should be a reminder of our collective humanity. And it should be a reminder of how we got to look out for each other. That's just the world. That's just the world that we're in right now. It's all types of stuff. Some of them infrastructure problems that, it's nothing happened on purpose. Some of them malicious attacks, right? Some of them a combination of complex circumstances. But we got to look out for each other in all of these different spaces, bro.
Shout out to my friend and artist Cole Ndelu, who was saying that, Earth is a group project.
Fire.
We're in a group project in this thing called Earth, and it takes all of us to be able to provide the best for each other. You're not alone from the moment you're born, and neither are you alone when you are dead. You go into the ground, which is an apartment full of other people next to you. So even in your death, you're not alone.
I love it.
And it takes infrastructure it takes somebody else taking care of you in your death that stops your bones from popping up to the top. Someone that's put you in the box and then so throughout the whole entire process, man, togetherness is literally what brings us into the world and what guides us out of it. And somewhere in between that, we lose that realization, and it all becomes about us and becomes selfish. That's what scares me about what we're seeing. Is it seems like we're not realizing that we're all in this together, man. When I see the video of Takeoff getting shot and killed, that looks like so many of my brothers. That looks like I saw our producer's face in there, tall dreadlock rapper dudes. That's our producer. That's my younger brother. That's my cousins. That's all of us in that situation. Leaving something, an argument, someone gets. That's all of us. That is all of us over there. So in that, I just see a loss of people realizing that making it back home is the best circumstance.
That's what we are, and making sure everybody gets home, right? That's a part of looking out for everybody in our circle, and everybody that's around us and joining us in these environments. Like, I feel what you're saying about seeing ourselves in so much of what's happening, right? I see myself in, man, like, unfortunately, what happened in South Korea, right? Like, people coming out to celebrate Halloween, get dressed up, be festive, right? We can be back outside. They've been battling COVID. They had a huge spike in April, have been able to kind of mitigate that, and are able to be back in this space. They want to come out. You know what I'm saying? I can imagine myself, my homies in that space, right? So just holding space for all the families, all the people that didn't have their loved ones come home. So holding our head for South Korea, holding our head for the folks in Indonesia at the football event. You know what I mean? These things are happening all over the world, right? They're happening in spaces that we all can see ourselves in. And so, as we like to do on this show, man, we bring information, we deal with some of these tough issues. So, of course, we're not gonna leave this segment without giving you something that you can do actively you know what I mean, in your life, and to maybe feel a little bit safer in those spaces. So know that that's coming. But just before we quickly move to that, I just want to talk about something you touched on, which is like blame in these spaces, right? I think when something happens and it's a tragedy, whether one person's responsible or a lot of people is responsible, there's a outrage that comes up, and it's what are we going to do about this? There's a desire to, I think, place that blame, one, to feel safer, like we know what the cause was and we're going to prevent it, and two, to release some of that grief and some of that confusing emotion that happens when this happens. So how do you see the blame that gets tossed around, and how should we try and navigate that?
You see, the blame that gets tossed around, the solution that I see for it is something that I'm starting to employ a lot. Is that when I'm in a public space, I want the person in front of me, behind me, and on the sides of me to know that I'm here for love, and I make it an intentional thing.
I've seen you do that, actually.
I do that quite often. Whoever is standing around me, I'll build that parameter of positive energy around us, so that if there is a situation, we can at least,
build from that foundation of,
we're here for goodness, brother. And we grew up for a long time, and we see these old black cats, I call them Cats Jack, because they're cool dudes, but they're about peace and unity, brother. But it's affirmative love, it's like affirmative love. And I see myself growing into that type of person who, when it pulls up, it's peace, brother. Get home safe, brother. Love, and just letting people know definitely that you're loved. Be known you're loved, bro.
No, that's real. That's real. And I've seen you implement that. That's something that I want to do more of, is, to activate that, to say, turn to the person next to you, right? Like we do in church. And I think there's some value to be taken from some of these spaces, right? So turn to the person next to you and just go, hey, what's up, man? I'm Miles. You like Princess Nokia? That's what's up, man. That's cool. Good, like, glad you could come out. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah, that's dope.
It's dope, man. So, but to kind of, I feel like that's a really positive solution.
But there's the blame element, like you're saying.
Unlike the wider,
Yeah, but in South Korea, interestingly, a friend of mine who says that particular street, that is the popular street, because that's where a lot of the international bars and people come and mix together on that road where you saw the crowd crush. And he said part of the issue with that is that you have people pressing you, but it's on a steep as well. So you have the weight of gravity pushing people back, and then you have the crowd surge pushing people together, and then the people that died were sandwiched between. Meaning that even natural elements are at play here to blame.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be able to point to a single person or thing and say, this is what undoubtedly did it.
Yeah. So does that change maybe how you think about, and I'm not meaning you directly so much as just like people in general, something like the Travis Scott situation where, you've got this one person, it's the Travis Scott Festival, he's on stage, a situation like this starts happening. Like, how does that play into it where there is somebody kind of that you feel like might be held responsible?
We really also have to extend a look at everything, because tragedies don't happen off of a singular thing. There's a cascade of events that occur, and then the outcome is the loss of life. If you watch the Woodstock documentary, right, where they had 13 people that died over there, it was a catastrophe by all accounts. You see it slowly build up. One thing leads to another thing. They overcharged. They didn't allow people to bring in water and their own food, and then charged them 4 times the prices of those basic goods once they got there. And they were subpar at that. So you have already something that was done days before the actual deaths happened that contributes towards that angst.
Yep.
As someone that organizes people together and is at times responsible for guiding people, a mass group of people's safety, when you see that, what type of blame, what things do you point at as the weak points?
I like that. I like that better. What do we see as the weak points and the points that need improvement? So there was actually a decent amount of organizing that went into this evening in South Korea. preparing some of the businesses on the block and some of the folks that were going to be, working in that area. And you're going to be like, this guy always does this. But so that was really good to see. But a lot of the resources in terms of police were devoted to prevention of crime and there was one other thing they said, drug busts.
Korea.
In Korea.
Yeah.
So that's what they're focused on in that space, right?
So when you look at a tragedy, you think, how were the police to blame for this?
When I look at a tragedy, I think, damn. First, you know what I mean? Like, that's a loss. That's people. That's real lives. That's real families, right? But when we do turn to solutions, I look to us as individuals in that crowd that may be a part of that crowd that see ourselves attending those events as having a responsibility to keep ourselves and others safe. But I also think that the people who organize the event as an organizer have a responsibility in that too. And if you're collaborating with the police in terms of public safety, then I think that makes them responsible for this as well, right? That's their job, is public safety, right? And so if we're talking about not placing blame, but looking at ways that things to consider for next time, maybe it's focusing as much, if not more, attention on crowd safety as it is on drug busts and crime prevention, right? You're gonna hate me for this. Indonesia. We're in a space where the soccer team's playing, the home team loses, the crowd rushes the field, and they spray the crowd with tear gas, a substance that's banned by FIFA, right? They said, don't put this in our stadiums, it doesn't end well. But that's what happened, right? That is what caused the mass rush for the exits. And so in that situation, again, if we're looking at things that could be improved, maybe we know that it's not, we abide by the rule that says don't use tear gas in the stadium that causes that. So I think when going back to my initial question and accountability in terms of like Travis Scott, like I also look at how he may have had to humble himself and have lost money, but I also look at Live Nation, which has continued to put on events all throughout the year, right? And so if we're looking at things that we want to improve for next time, it is that we are learning that public safety should be of primary concern anytime people are gathering in the spaces that they can enter and making sure that they are able to get back home.
Yeah, make it home.
I want to hit them with some stuff that you can do real quick before we jump out this segment, right?
Hit them with it.
If you're heading out and you are going to an event, a concert, a show where there's going to be a whole bunch of people, whole bunch of stuff going on, I would say that this is what you should check out, right? Have a planned area to meet if y'all get separated.
That's a good one.
Right?
That's a very good one.
Start there. If we get separated, meet at the smoothie hut. Meet at the car.
That's a good one.
Meet at the popcorn stand, right? Once you get there, identify your exits. Where are the exits? How do we get out of here? What's the one closest to the whip? What's the one closest to a main street? Which ones are safest? Check out the exits. Wear non-slip footwear, if you can, right?
No loafers? I can't take my loafers to Coachella?
High tops would be optimal,
is
what I'll tell you. I'm not saying you can't do nothing, but think about your footwear, especially if there's rain forecasted for the day, if it might be slippery conditions, you're going to want to have something that, you can still move around in, right? Have fun, maintain a sense of your surroundings. Whatever, keep the idea that you might have to get yourself out of a jam, factor that in when you're sipping, when you're smoking, when you're doing what you do. Just think about that, right? Be thoughtful about jewelry, not just from the fact of somebody being able to steal it or snatch it off you, but what happens if you drop it? Are you going to be able to pick it up, right? And what does that mean for your time, especially if you're a smaller person looking for it on the ground, right? So think about how locked in is your jewelry. Is this something you wear every day that never falls off? Or is this something you're putting on? It's a little loose, might fall. You're going to be able to let it go. Think about that. If it gets deep, if it gets thick, if it gets uncomfortable, unsafe, right? The recommendations are to protect your head, protect your noggin, put your hands up, almost like you're in a fight. Because a lot of the times what happens is when the crowd crushes start happening, somebody gets bopped on the head, you're less able to continue to move around. So they say protect your dome. They say conserve your oxygen.
So breathe slowly.
Don't scream unless you have a real reason to think that someone can hear you that can immediately improve your situation. try to conserve your oxygen, try not to scream. They also say conserve your energy, don't fight the crowd, move to stay above the crowd, but don't try and move in the opposite direction of the crowd. Conserve your energy. If you fall, get into the fetal position and just
Pray for the
do your
best.
best to protect your neck and your body. And if you see somebody fall, pick them up.
Pick them up.
We're responsible for each other. We hold each other down. We love each other. We love hip hop. We plan to be at many more hip hop shows. We plan to be at many more festivals and concerts and places where we will be in community with people that are that like what we like. And in that space, we care about each other.
Yeah, 100%. Man, I would love to see us get to a place. Remember not remember like we're there, but in the 80s, there was, remember in the 80s?
We really old heads.
Yeah, I know.
When we start stretching what we remember, dang.
Yeah, but in the 80s, there was that free love energy, in certain places. Granted, apartheid and a whole bunch of other things were happening at the same time, but there was a culture of open love, man. And I'd love to see, especially us Black brothers, because we're dying so much in the hands of other Black brothers, just to be able to extend love to each other and make that cool. It's cool to tell your brother, hey, bro, I love you, man. I love you. My producer, I love you. The people watching, we love you, man. And how we show that love is by giving them the carefully curated content. And what they love
Is Rec and Review. "21 Savage." 21. The Boy. Drizzy Drake.
her loss.
What you think?
Love the album title.
Great album title.
Great album title. One I can get behind.
Did we hit toxic already?
Already?
Are we toxic to love the album title?
I like the album title. This is the first Drake album we've reviewed on this show. We're almost 100 episodes in.
No, we reviewed Honestly Nevermind, didn't we?
Nope,
We didn't?
we did not. We did not review Honestly Nevermind.
Are you sure?
Your response was
We reviewed Scorpion.
hell no.
Was it?
Yep, Scorpion
Aw.
came out in 2018.
Look at me protecting us.
Yeah. So this is the first one, and I think we were excited to do this because of the 21 Savage elements of it, right? Meaning that we're expecting a lot more of the rapidy Drake, which classic hip hop fans say is missing, especially given the last album, which was primarily a dance album. Well, lucky for all of you guys that like Drake or what he's up to lately, he talks about it. He talks about it, everything. That part too. He talks about it, you know. So, what you think? I've been interested to think what you think.
I had an interesting experience with this one because I put it on, and on first listen, second listen, I'm like, this is hype, man. Like this, I do like Drake and his more aggressive rapping bag. You know what I mean? And we got that. I love what 21's versatility, his confidence on tracks. So I listened to it. It's cool, good project. I'm thinking 2 listens in, we're gonna be talking about just the music. Ain't nothing else here to talk about really. Then I proceed throughout my day and I'm online and I see that people have so much to say other than the music. All types of stuff I didn't pick up on.
A lot of casualty assaults.
Yeah, a lot of strays.
A lot of strays were caught.
A lot of strays were caught in the making of this Drake project. And yeah, it's really interesting, man. It's really interesting because part of me feels like throwing shots is part of hip hop. You know what I mean? Especially when there's not. It doesn't seem like any of these are real beefs. It seems like a lot of what he's saying is he's just bored. He's just throwing shots because he's bored. So I was really surprised to see the reaction. Had to go back, listen to it with that ear, and I just feel like there's a lot of I don't know. I don't know how to feel about the project now. I don't know how to feel about it because there are songs that I like a lot, but I also don't like corniness in my rap and in my rappers.
Is it because you're listening to Mobster Drake that you feel like it's a bit corny?
Yeah, I feel like hearing some of the criticisms of the album from like a controversy perspective made me listen with an ear that made me like the project less.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like I'm taking it for what it is. It's 21 Savage and Drake. I'm not looking deep into it. I'm just vibing. As soon as I started looking deeper into the records, it just didn't hit exactly the same for me.
Well, if you do care to listen to, if the music elements is what you're going in for, I think if you're a fan of both, a true fan of both, I think you're relatively satisfied because 21 and Drake, I think, have good ears for samples and R&B. So there's definitely a huge incorporation of that, but then a lot of the song structures. So I think that would satisfy some folks. If you want to hear a bit of singing Drake, there's some singing Drake in there. If you want to hear lines that you can quote on your caption, he ticks off the whole list of things. I would say it does feel possibly to have a similar reception as What a Time to Be Alive with Future. When it first came out, I think people were like, "Oh, Drake's jumping on Future's flow," and it wasn't really received as well as it aged. And I wonder if this one has a similar thing where it's going to age better than it's received. Yeah, interesting music moments for Drake at the moment.
What do you mean interesting? Oh, you mean in comparison to his other projects released?
I think this particular period in his career is very interesting because he is hitting in so many different demographics, and is respected as the biggest, but still fighting to prove that he's the best. You know, he's still responding back to why it is I'm the best, as opposed to doing the things that the best are supposed to be doing, which is elevating, pushing the sound forward, elevating it, you know, all of those different things, which he would say he's doing with dance music.
Yeah, I would say that would exactly be his argument, was that you're going to see a whole bunch of people on very house mixable music in the next couple of years, and he's going to have Honestly Nevermind to point at. And I think that might have even contributed to why he wanted to get it out before Beyonce's album, to be like, still big dog of this sound. As soon as y'all leave this Afro beats that I started for this house that I started, no, I started it. You know what I mean? Drake is an interesting cat, man. Drake is an interesting cat, because what you're saying about like being on top, being respected as the biggest in those spaces, I think sometimes he uses that. He amuses himself by being messy. You know what I mean?
It does work for the numbers,
Maybe,
and he is the king of the numbers.
sure.
Undoubtedly the king of the numbers.
And I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knew people wanted a Drake and 21 project. I was excited to hear 21 over some melodic, some sampled stuff. And so I think Drake is putting together a catalog where I don't think he cares that much what we think of the album. Or if he doesn't care, he knows that people are gonna critique the album a certain way anyway because it's Drake. But the individual songs, like you said, I think lend to that staying power. I think there are joints off of this that we're gonna hear outside in the next five years from now, right? So,
I think Drake and hip hop are at an interesting moment now. We're the same place where we were right after Floyd Mayweather retired from boxing, and what Floyd Mayweather did is do something that is so outlandish, the expectation became outlandish for boxers, which is go on an undefeated run. 50, 55 and 0, 52 and 0, 54 and 0, depending on who you're asking, in a professional setting. There's people that have gotten, Sugar Ray Robinson has gotten an even more impressive record, but that undefeated 0 mark next to Mayweather made all of us as boxing fans care about that special 0. When in fact, boxers take losses all the time and bounce back. That's what makes great boxers. In hip hop, we've got an expectation for perfection every time from the people we consider our champions. And because of that, anything that's not a home run knock out the park in audio quality, it gets, you know, we look at it a bit differently. So do I think this is incredible? Do I think this is the best performance from both of these artists? Not particularly. Do I think it's a good project? I think it's very enjoyable. Do I think it pushes any of their musical influence forward? I'm not sure. The promotion around it, I haven't seen it to be as intentional as it is entertaining. So I'm not sure what the full scope of the vision is. It's good hip hop. It'll fit in the party. It's cool for now. Yeah. That's how I feel about Drake. It's good.
That's interesting because when you're talking about champions, are you considering him one of those people?
He has to be. He's the king of the numbers.
Yeah, but you feel very mad about him.
And I think that's the interesting thing about it is that for the last couple of releases, it's good.
So what role does that mean numbers have in hip hop to you?
Now we're speaking about the role that numbers have in music, because recently Taylor Swift, 10 of the songs on her album became on the top 10 charts. And that was a big thing, meaning that she dominated the charts. What does that mean about numbers per se? But no matter how you want to rank it, Drake is the biggest hip hop artist of all time.
So what's the relationship between biggest and quality? Because in the Floyd Mayweather conversation, those things are very closely tied. But in the hip hop conversation, how close are they tied?
It depends on the fan of the artist that you ask. Because there's some people I'm positive believe this man has yet to miss a single shot.
But to you, how closely are those things tied?
Personally, I'm slightly unmoved by the music. I would the things that would impress me are the illustrative capabilities of the artist. How much can this person paint me a picture that I can live in and experience? And I think with Drake and 21 Savage, they had a great opportunity to be able to walk you through the parallels of Atlanta scum, and then Atlanta mob ties, and then Canadian mob ties, instead of having it be somewhat gimmicky with some of the samples that were chosen. Some of the samples were that One More Time sample, I think was quite lazy.
You love Way Too Sexy,
which is another lazy effect. Yeah, you're recycling. That's why it's done before.
But you liked it the first time with Way Too Sexy.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Drake is knocking it out the park with what he wants to do. Because recently, as listening as somebody with an ear that's also thinking, let me build the catalog of records that I would spin if I'm spinning records, right? Like outside, anywhere, right? I think Drake is knocking it out the park in making sure that he puts records not only that are like, that people will eat up as his fan base, but that can exist in that space. No matter what year it is, before a concert, you can hear Drake. Outside at a club, a lounge, whatever, you can hear Drake. And I think this album, if that's what you're going for, is another knockout the park, right? My question is, if somebody who's considered a champion, considered the greatest, if you're so easily able to continue to hit that mark, what else are you trying to do? And I think I can respect the reach into the kind of dancier house music. Cool, I can respect that. What I think he's doing also with this record and some of the shots he's throwing, shots at Drum, talking about Meg, my question becomes like, why? What's the point of that?
Inspiration runneth thin.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Inspiration runneth thin.
I think as one of the biggest artists in the world, Drake has a very limited scope on what he will talk about. And I think that when that scope is limited to a big portion of this record is devoted, Her Loss, to talking about women. When you get too deep into that bag, I wish you would have painted us a cinematic masterpiece, because there are some missteps in here that I think didn't have to happen. So as part of a show that I think we champion safety for Black women, right? Like that's something that we talk about on this show. Like, not to get too crazy or deep with it, but did you feel a way about him talking about Meg on this?
Nah. Something that I want to ask you. Drake is following a Jay-Z formula. You know that. Subliminal King is
Hove. Yeah.
Is Hove.
Sure.
And so we'd be hypocritical if we called this lame, but still big up Hove as the greatest to ever do it, because Drake is doing literally the Hove sub. He's taking that from Hove.
But I don't think anybody is saying that subliminals and rap are lame. I mean, like somebody you can make that argument, but like you said, you would have every artist ever. You know what I mean? So like, but I think certain subliminals can be lame. I think
Like
things,
that one.
I think things can be in bad taste.
Like that the Meg line you think was in bad taste.
I think it was in bad taste. I mean, well, here's the thing. I don't know enough about the situation. I don't know anything. But as the biggest artist in the world, and Meg is somebody who I don't care if the line about her music. Yeah, kinda, maybe.
Yeah.
But the line about why jump into that? And that is, and if we're using Hove as the example, I think that's kind of anti-Hove. I don't think Hove puts himself in the middle of situations, you know what I mean, that are that messy for no reason.
We'll find a way to talk about Hove, boy. We'll definitely find a way to talk about Hove. Let's get to the rankings. Where do you put this?
I think it's a 3.5 out of 5. I think that's cool.
Producer, what are you feeling, bro? I will get his answer in a bit. 4 out of 5. Interesting.
Slaps, bro.
Interesting. And he didn't Hassan didn't like the Lil Baby one. He didn't like the Lil Baby album, but likes this one. That's very interesting.
I think the Lil Baby project is a lot more focused, and if you don't like what he's doing, then you might not like the whole project. I think this project has a lot.
It's for something for everyone.
Yeah, and something is hard to be mad at unless you're mad at the actual lyrical content.
Yeah. It's good.
So
it's good. It's good with the shrug. 3.5 out of 5 is good with the shrug, man. Check out some of our other recommended and reviews that we do. We do this thing weekly, spin records weekly. And we do it because we know.
Oh yeah, we know, man. We know people going through it. We know it's a lot going on. And we know that there's a million ways that you could be moving around dealing with all of that. And if you are hearing my voice right now, that means you chose us. So we choose you back. We appreciate you. We love you in this space. That is a celebration of celebrating, a celebration of life, a celebration of how good it feels to be Black unequipped.
Love it.
And we hope that you eat something delicious. It's Sunday afternoon, so take care of yourself before we dive back into a week. Hug somebody you love. Hug somebody you love. Tell people that you love them.
Spread love.
It's a lot going on, man. And so with peace, with the reminder to drink some water, eat water, like that. Go.
Yeah.